What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Okay, so it's kind of a slow news day, so here we go with the hit pieces on all of Donald Trump's cabinet picks. It's beginning to be funny, like it's entertainment at this point. It's supposed to be news, right? We're supposed to be scared of all Donald Trump's cabinet picks, for crying out loud. We're supposed to be, we're shivering in our freaking boots. Oh my God, he's putting a Russian asset as the director of national intelligence. Oh my goodness, she's going to be overseeing 18 intelligence agencies, but she's a Putin propagandist, for crying out loud. Yeah, I imagine you can guess who the hell we're talking about today. Oh, that's right, folks. Check this out. Ex-Tulsi Gabbard aides says she was a devout consumer of Kremlin propaganda network. So this, I'm assuming, is being framed as, oh, well, she's reading Russian news. Oh my God, what are we going to do about this? It's nothing but propaganda, all of it. Wait, hang on. So it's Russian news. So when we zoom out a little bit here, let's zoom out for a second. Okay, so it's Russian news. According to every single news organization in the United States, at least the corporate press, they'll all tell you that, oh, it's just a propaganda outlet. Well, maybe not so much. Maybe not so much. Maybe we have a little bit of the pot calling the kettle black here, huh? Maybe? We'll see. Let's get into this thing. Tulsi Gabbard, whom Donald Trump plans to nominate as his director of national intelligence, was a faithful consumer of Kremlin-controlled propaganda network RT. Three of her former aides told ABC News. Oh my goodness. So, what can we derive from this? She read RT News and she watched RT News. What is wrong with watching opposition news, by the way? Right? Like, think about that for a second. Let's deep dive into that just for a minute. Okay, so if we want to know what's going on in the world and we are scared that the United States might have lied to us about something, where would we go to get some news, especially if it comes to the Russian-Ukraine conflict? Right? Like 100% of everything RT says can't be all lies and propaganda. Some of it has to be true. But outside of that little eye-opening perspective that you may not have thought about before, but you probably have, if you're watching this channel, because if you're watching this channel, you probably read a lot of opposition news, right? Like, we want to know what the other side is saying, for crying out loud. That's the main thing I'm trying to get at here. When you read Russian propaganda, you want to know exactly what the propaganda is, if it's even propaganda at all. We want to know about it, right? We don't want to be just left in the dark, not knowing exactly what the opposition is saying. And once again, why is Russia the opposition? I have no idea. Why is RT just a propaganda outlet? Not sure. The former Hawaii Congresswoman's foreign policy views, which critics say have increasingly grown soft on Vladimir Putin's Russia, have led to some Democratic lawmakers to question her commitment to the United States. Yeah, we get this. It's a line, and nobody really buys into it. I mean, unless you're one of these sheeple that walk around and just listen to everything the corporate press says and be like, oh my goodness, and just buy into everything they say. No, they're manipulating you, folks. They are definitely manipulating you. And don't put it past lawmakers in this country to lie to you, to slander somebody, because they're the opposition. Huh. She's coming on with a Republican. She used to be a Democrat. So in their views, she's a traitor to the Democratic Party. So take everything they say with a grain of salt. As a matter of fact, right? Like these aides, they're probably lying, to be honest with you. But once again, Rep. Jason Crow said there are some deep questions about where her loyalties lie, and Rep. Debbie Wasserman Schultz, without offering evidence, claimed Gabbard is likely a Russian asset. Gabbard has repeatedly denied such claims. Well, at least the Daily Beast had the fortified testicular attitude to say that she said that without evidence. I will give them praise for doing that. They love to do this with stuff that Trump says. Anytime Republicans say stuff, oh, they said it without evidence. You know what? Most people that talk on TV say stuff without evidence. Because unless you're a newscaster and unless you're putting news on the screen, evidence, you're saying stuff without evidence. Most people don't go onto the news programs with buttloads of evidence of every single thing they're going to say. So when they come out and say, oh, she said this without evidence, yes, of course. Like they do that often, constantly, and it aggravates me until no end. Like, they don't want to go out and do the work to gather the evidence. Like, a lot of times there's always evidence of these things, right? Like with the cats and the dogs thing from the debate. There was evidence for that, but they come out and said, oh no, it's debunked. There's no evidence at all. He said that without evidence, by God. But no, there was evidence. As a matter of fact, we showed the evidence on this channel. There's video evidence. There's 911 calls. There's some other evidence, blah, blah, blah. There's, posts on X. You name it, right? There is evidence. There's no 100% proof. But let's keep going. Gabbard's former aides, however, told ABC that the more plausible explanation for her outlook is her media diet. They said the former Democrat continued regularly reading and sharing articles from RT, well after she was advised that it was an unreliable source of information. Who are the people that determine that RT is an unreliable source of information? Oh, it's our corporate press that determines that. Huh. That's interesting, isn't it? The aides emphasized Gabbard also would consume news from a wide range of outlets, including left-wing and right-wing blogs. So there you go, folks. Once again, backing up what I was trying to say. You don't just read left-wing news or right-wing news. You read a vast array of everything. You read Pakistani news, right? You read news from everywhere. You want to see what these other people are saying, especially if you're very interested in foreign policy. You want to read RT. You want to read China's news, right? Whatever that may be, right? You want to read Brazilian news, for crying out loud, because if you're interested in foreign policy, you would be interested in those things, right? Because you want to see what they're saying over there, right? Then you can get online and you can go and fact check all these places and see if they're telling the truth or not. For the most part, most of the time, the internet gives you good information, right? You can check your sources, go and verify all this information, double check, triple check your sources, blah, blah, blah. You get it, right? You get it. The State Department has for nearly a decade deemed RT a Kremlin mouthpiece and has heightened its scrutiny of the outlet in recent years. In September, officials warned the American public that the outlet's activities have stretched beyond mere news. Now, from an American perspective, I could say the same exact thing about MSNBC, NBC, ABC, CNN, the Associated Press, CNN's, corporate press articles. A lot of places I could say that. The Daily Beast, as a matter of fact, they are a propaganda outlet. That's all they do is propaganda, right? That's why they're doing a hit piece on Tulsi Gabbard. These people, they just don't see that their utter failings. It's like they can't see the utter hypocrisy that they're blatantly displaying for the entire world. It's kind of crazy. We now know that RT moved beyond being simply a media outlet and has been an entity with cyber capabilities. Ooh, cyber capabilities. You know what that means? Yeah, that's one of those qualifying terms that they use. You know what? You're probably watching this on the internet because it's on YouTube. So guess what, folks? You have cyber capabilities. You can get on the interwebs and go around and do stuff. That's cyber capabilities, as a matter of fact. Wow, these people. The State Department wrote, it is also engaged in information operations, covert influence, and military procurement. Oh, coming from the American government. Oh, and I trust the American government. How much? especially under the Biden administration. Thank you very much. Earlier that month, the Justice Department indicted 2 former RT employees for allegedly laundering nearly $10 million to a plot that paid right-wing influencers to disseminate content deemed favorable to the Russian government. Now, what exactly is wrong with that? Information favorable to the Russian government. Why would that be a bad thing, considering we have freedom of speech in this country? If you want to talk good about Putin, hey, go right ahead. You have the right to do that, as a matter of fact. I just don't see where the problem is with the disseminating, content deemed favorable to the Russian government. I really don't see the problem with that. Like, if it's the truth, where's the harm there? Right? Because, Russia's not all bad. I'll be honest about that. And you guys know my views on Russia and Putin. Putin's an evil scumbag, right? I think he's a dictator for the most part. He's not a very good dude. However, Russia as a whole, it's not all bad, right? Like, I'm sure everybody in this country has things in common with Vladimir Putin. Oh, you might be disturbed to learn that, yes, you might have some views, political views in nature, in common with Vladimir Putin. Oh my goodness. You see him as an evil scumbag. Doesn't mean he's not an evil scumbag. And just because you listen to Russian propaganda doesn't mean a damn thing. Doesn't mean you're reciting Russian propaganda, does it? No, as a matter of fact, it doesn't. It just means that you know exactly what they're saying in their media. As a matter of fact. It's just crazy what they're trying to do here, but none of it is actually bad. They're just trying to spin it off as a hit piece. But once again, I'm here to break all this down to show you guys that it's really not a hit piece. Because everything they're saying can be logically turned around and just made to look like just normal actions, as a matter of fact. Gabbard quit the Democratic Party in 2022 and drifted into the Trump orbit over the next 2 years, finally going full MAGA by joining the Republican Party in October. Her views on Russia's incursions and attacks on Ukraine have notably changed from 2014, when she called for meaningful American military assistance for Ukrainian forces in response to Russia's annexation of Crimea, to recent years when she has laid the blame for Russian aggression at the feet of NATO and the United States. Now, I can't say that. I haven't heard her views on this, but I can say that is absolutely a factor in Russia invading Ukraine. NATO encroachment. We made a promise back in the day when the Soviet Union fell that NATO would not move a single inch to the east. And that's all we've done since then. We've done nothing but gain allies in that area. So we've done nothing but encroachment, and we said we weren't going to. If you were Russia, wouldn't you be aggravated about that? Wouldn't that be a factor, right? Like, once again, it does not justify the scumbaggery of invading a sovereign nation, for crying out loud. But hang on, let's once again zoom out and look at this thing. Has he just invaded? Yes, he has. As a matter of fact, he has. But he hasn't tried to conquer Ukraine. You can make all the arguments you want to, because two things can't be true at the same time. You hear it from Democrats. Oh, if he's allowed to take over Ukraine, he's going to be emboldened to roll into NATO and take it, go into Poland or Germany or any of these other places, right? Well, hang on. So if he's allowed to take over Ukraine, well, hang on. He's spent 3 years in Ukraine and hasn't moved anywhere. Right? The first few days of that offensive, he got well into Ukrainian territory, right? Pretty much just that southern tip, and hasn't gone anywhere since. Those lines have been moving back and forth. Now, I know what you might argue. You might say, oh, well, they've been fighting back, blah, 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 blah. Well, hang on. So the Ukrainian army, which is not a very big army, to say the least, is able to defend against Russia. Right there, full-on illegal invasion. If that's a full-on illegal invasion, and little old Ukraine can push back against Russia and actually keep them contained, what do you think their chances are of rolling into Poland, who has a NATO army? Think about that for a second. Okay, so on the other side of this, if they're not using their full intent, right, then what are we doing here? What's really going on? So it's not a full-on invasion, is it? No, he just wanted his freaking land bridge. That happens to be my opinion. Once again, doesn't justify rolling in and taking land for yourself, but it's not the same thing as a full-on invasion trying to conquer Ukraine, as a matter of fact. As those are very different things. Very different things. Once again, I can criticize Russia for doing this, but I can also at the same time turn around and criticize the United States for doing the exact same thing. Which I will do, as a matter of fact, because I'm not going to sit here and, like all these warmongers, these neocons up in Washington, D.C., calling for Ukraine to be, Putin to be taken out of power, for crying out loud, because he invaded Ukraine. Now, he had his reasons. Doesn't justify it. But, hey, hang on. Is our invasion of Afghanistan justified? Oh, you might say, well, we were going after the Taliban. Or Al-Qaeda, I'm sorry. The terrorists that took down our two towers or whatever, our twin towers. The World freaking Trade Center. Yeah, does that really justify invading an entire nation and taking over, conquering Afghanistan? Does that justify that? I don't think so. I really don't think so. But, hang on. There's something else in there. Iraq. As a matter of fact, what did Iraq have to do with any of that? Nothing. So we were completely unjustified. So, to Russia, the United States looks like a giant ball of hypocrisy sitting over here across the lake. Just giant hypocrisy. Oh, well, they invade all over the place. And they're yelling at me for invading Ukraine? I'm just saying. Just trying to give some perspective here. ABC obtained a 2017 memo from Gabbard to campaign staff that the outlet said lamented the United States hostility toward Putin. In 2014, when Russian troops annexed Crimea, Gabbard, then a first-term representative, released a statement advocating for a meaningful American military assistance for Ukrainian forces and for the U.S. to invoke stiffer, more painful economic sanctions for Russia. The consequences of standing idly by while Russia continues to degrade the territorial integrity of Ukraine are clear, she wrote at the time. We have to act in a way that takes seriously the threat of Russian aggression against a peaceful, sovereign neighbor. By 2017, however, her tune had changed. In a lengthy memo to campaign staff laying out her views on foreign policy, a copy of which was obtained by ABC News, Gabbard blamed the U.S. and NATO for provoking Russian aggression and bemoaned the United States' hostility toward Putin. There certainly isn't any guarantee to Putin that we won't try to overthrow Russia's government, she wrote. Trump Transition Team spokesperson Alexa Henning told ABC News that Lieutenant Colonel Gabbard's views on foreign policy have been shaped by her military service and multiple deployments to war zone where she's seen the cost of war and who ultimately pays the price, calling the former aide's take on Gabbard's media influences false and nothing but a few former, conveniently anonymous, disgruntled staffers. Yes, as a matter of fact, they're always anonymous. They always speak on the condition of anonymity, right? Always. So we can't ever verify any of this information. It's hilarious what they do. It is hilarious what they do. But I can also show you what they do. Check this little clip out right quick.
Tulsi Gabbard met twice with Assad in around 2017, at a time when this was highly controversial. He was a sort of a toxic person. She didn't really give anybody a heads up that she was going to do this.
Bashar al-Assad is accused of war crimes against his own people during the Syrian civil war, which killed hundreds of thousands. A few months after the meeting, Gabbard said on CNN she was skeptical Assad used chemical weapons, despite overwhelming evidence from the U.S. government that he did.
Yes, I'm skeptical on these failed regime change wars that we've seen too often in Iraq, in Libya, and now continuing in Syria.
The Army reservist is vocally anti-war and has criticized Republican and Democratic administrations over military interventions.
The only place where she's advocated aggressive action is in fighting Islamic State and Islamic terrorism. Other than that, she's pretty much been consistent in saying the United States should not get involved in conflicts overseas. It's at odds with a great number of Republican senators who favor continued aid to Ukraine and a strong position vis-a-vis Russia.
For years, Gabbard rejected claims from high-ranking figures, most notably Hillary Clinton, that she's a Russian asset.
I'm not making any predictions, but I think they've got their eye on somebody who's currently in the Democratic primary and are grooming her to be the third-party candidate. She's the favorite of the Russians.
I mean, this is outrageous. This is outrageous and offensive on so many levels. I am a patriot. I love our country. I am a strong and intelligent woman of color, and I have dedicated almost my entire adult life to protecting the safety, security, and the freedom of all Americans in this country.
Now, you notice in there, whenever Tulsi Gabbard was speaking, there was always jump cuts, right? Said she was skeptical of Assad's mustard gas, right? But then when she comes on there, she says, yes, I'm skeptical of these foreign wars, blah, blah, blah. You heard the clip, right? Why did they cut it like that? Why did they cut it like that? Of course, regime change wars. I am sick and tired of the United States sending CIA agents in to go have a regime change somewhere just because we don't agree with their politics. That is none of our business. That is not any of our business. We are not the world's police, for crying out loud. I can understand having our Navy patrol everywhere, right? I get that. I totally get that. But these regime change wars, all this garbage that we pull off, right? We're constantly in Africa. We're constantly in the Middle East. It's garbage. It needs to come to a stop. I don't think that's good policy, to be honest with you. Now, I'm not in one of these classified briefings that we have with our intelligence agents, blah, blah, blah. I really don't care, though. There is not hardly anything you can tell me that would change my mind on this, because we don't need to be involved in other people's politics, for crying out loud, like internal politics, especially if we have no involvement in that country. It's insane to me that we do this. Like, what gives us the right to go out and try to topple somebody's government? It makes no sense. It makes no sense whatsoever. Like, and you know, what gives us the right to fund a war that somebody else started with somebody else who we have no real ties to? We're not an ally with these people. We don't have any treaties, like defense treaties or anything like that. Like, it's insane that we're doing this. But once again, yeah, I've gotten off topic on that. They try to put out a hit piece on her, but when you break it down logically, you analyze this thing out, you realize it's not really a hit piece. It's just, if you're one of these sheeple that just read this and like, oh my gosh, she's a Russian asset. They're just going to take people's word for it. Don't read between the lines. Don't think logically through all this stuff. But that's, you know, that's what I'm here to do, y'all. I try to analyze all this stuff and break it all down to see exactly what they're trying to say. Because, once again, they add stuff in here, like saying, oh, well, she watches Russian TV. Yeah, so what? What is that actually saying about what she does? I mean, are they trying to say she's a Russian asset because she watches RT? Or maybe she just wants to know what's going on in Russia, what the propagandists are saying. You ever thought about that? The Daily Beast? No, they don't think about that. Or maybe they do, and they're just intentionally trying to manipulate everybody. Maybe that's what it is, but I've ran for too long in this one, y'all. couldn't help but run my mouth a little bit on this, because this type of crap, these type of articles really aggravate the crap out of me. They really, really do, because they're not really saying anything, nothing that would justify an entire news article, right? They're just not saying anything whatsoever. But when you read it out, you can see how some people could be fooled to think that, oh, well, here's evidence that she's a Russian asset, because she reads RT News or watches RT News, and she says that, you know, NATO aggression is the reason. No. That's a factor. As a matter of fact, that can't be denied. That is a fact of life, that is a factor, right? Putin has said so himself. You think he's going to lie about that? Why would he lie? Why would he make that up? Even though we can prove that, yes, NATO has expanded eastward. I mean, there's just no denying that as a matter of fact, as a matter of reality. You can't deny that NATO has expanded eastward, and we said we were not going to. Now, whether that pissed off Putin or not, who knows? I imagine it would. It would piss me off, right? Just say it. What if Russia had an alliance with Mexico, for crying out loud? They made a NATO-type alliance with Mexico. You think the United States would stand for that? I don't think so. I don't think so at all. But I've ran off for too long on this one. I want y'all to let me know what y'all think about all this down in the comments section. And y'all don't forget, go ahead and smash that like button for me. I sure would appreciate that. Subscribe if you're new around here, which you're probably not, because YouTube doesn't ever circulate my videos like they should. But hey, it is what it is. So share this video anywhere and everywhere you can. That's the only way I'm going to expand, y'all. But that's all I got for this one. I want to thank everybody for watching. And y'all try to have a good day. Stay legitical. Peace.